myself now.
Okay. Okay, I think it's about 1 o'clock. So we're going to start, okay? We're going to talk about a woodland stream. And I sent a picture out. Let's see, I'll show you the picture again. This is what we're going to paint. This is a really bad photograph, but it has a good composition. So you see a lot of darks. They're almost black. And of course, we can't paint that. We have to paint the atmosphere and the light. And that's what we'll talk about. So this is good for inspiration, but that's about it. So I'll put that over here and we'll sketch it out. And then I'll do the same as I always do. I'll talk about it as I paint it. So I'm going to move this closer now and get a close-up of this canvas. See how close I can get. Okay, sorry about that. Let's see if that'll work. Hopefully that, I'll be able to see that pretty well. Okay, let's get right to it. So that's why we're here. So, this is a sunny day, obviously. So I'm going to draw again with ultramarine blue with some oil, some medium. And we'll find, where the level of the stream is, or the horizon, got to put that in first. So what we have here, which is very nice, is we have a nice middle distance with a bank. We have this bank coming in here. Just draw it freely. We're not locked into filling in a drawing, This has, see, a slight angle, usually marked. You asked me about this. So we have a slight angle. It's not going to be straight. And then we have a foreground, which is nice. See, this will pull us in. There'll be trees here. See, we'll go right around here and way back there. There'll be trees here. This will be our distance. So the light will be coming in here. See, the best time of day to paint a woodland stream is around 1 o'clock when the sun is really high, because then it'll come streaming down through the trees and really illuminate the trees. And it'll illuminate these rocks and it'll illuminate the stream. So that's our basic idea right there. Now I've got to mass this, just the larger the shapes, the bigger the masses, the better the painting will be. So let's go to our middle value. I should show you this palette once more. I always like to do that. In fact, maybe what I'll do is I'll show you this. I have this again. See, we're in the middle here. This is the middle of the palette between light and dark, orange and ochre. And if I mix black and white, ivory black with white, this is what I get. Same value as that. So that's the middle. Then I made my green. That's a middle green. And we'll just talk about it again. That's lemon yellow, cadmium lemon yellow with ultramarine blue. That's all that is. And that's the middle. See, here's a blue. Here's a cobalt blue. Well, that's slightly lighter than the middle. And this is ultramarine blue and white. And that's also the middle. So we can make anything. There's violet with white, which we'll use. So as long as we know where the middle is, and we know from the middle on down, we're painting shadow when we paint the landscape. As soon as you go above that, lighter than that, then we're in the sunlight. So we've got to mask the shadows. And now just to key this painting, just so I know where I'm at, I'm going to throw some yellow ochre and some of my middle green up here right in the water. And that's very rich, especially with that pink stain in the canvas coming through. That's cadmium red. Cadmium red light with just the stain on there. I actually put that on with watercolor, so it would dry very quickly. So that's where that's going to be my key for the moment. Now, as soon as I take that same green and throw it into a gray, then I'm back here because I've cooled it off. I'm going to mask that all in. This is my distance. You know, when you think about it, when you think about painting this way, this is very abstract thinking. We're thinking big, we're thinking in big shapes and masses of color. And you know, some of the really bad landscape painters would leave it just blocked in and flat because they don't know how to develop it. I mean, we've seen those paintings. So we're going to say this is the orange value, which is my lightest shadow. This is all the trees that'll be in shadow. Okay. Okay. See, when we're on location, remember, we've got to put it down very quickly. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm feeling like I'm on location here. And so then, see, this group of trees is closer, so it's going to be darker. So I'm going to get a darker green. With the darker gray, we'll take a cadmium red light value. Value is the tone. You know, it's the tone we're looking for. How dark is it, you know? So I'm going to say that this will be my trees as I come closer here, okay? So I'm not using a lot of paint. You don't need a lot of paint. Although, I'll tell you what, though, some people like to use a lot of thick paint. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, that could be your style or your just the way you feel about it. But I like to keep it thin and build up. This is in the water here, see? So we'll just continue it straight down as though it's in the water. Okay, now let's mask this. This is even closer. Let's go even darker. I'm going to take my really dark green, which I made, if you recall, I took the middle green, took that middle green, I added Payne's Gray to it, I got that. You could also add ultramarine blue violet to the middle green and get the same dark green. But Payne's Gray is a shortcut to get to dark greens. And you notice that it has to look very rich in color. If it looks brown, then it's got too much red in it. So if you make a violet with too much red in it and mix it with the green, it'll end up brown. We don't want that. Okay, that's an important idea there. So I'm going to take this dark green that I just showed you. I'm going to put some raw umber in it. And raw umber is warm. And so that's going to bring this forward very, a lot closer than gray, see? It's much warmer. And this will offset that nice light in the back. So, you know, you'll see it's something happening pretty quickly when we mask like this, keep it all masked. Too many artists break up their paintings and paint in pieces. You know, that's kind of what these Western artists they're doing and the illustrators do. They paint in pieces. You don't want to paint in pieces and develop one piece at a time. It's like the portrait painter who starts with one eyeball and finishes it, and then he moves on to the nose and finishes it. I mean, that's not painting. I only tell you these things to give you a contrast to the way I'm thinking here. You know, okay, there it is. It's, you know, the stream obviously has got to reflect the greens in the forest. But we could add some luminosity to this. I'll put a little bit of orange in the green for now, you know, get that started. You know, if you go to a park where there are streams, study the water, the way the water looks when the light's coming down and hitting it. So with these ideas, if I give you these ideas, go out and look at the real thing and you'll see, because I painted a lot of stream scenes in the last 42 years. So, okay, you know what, I'm going to take that, this green here and just continue it up here. This was my CAD red light value green. See, if I put pure gray, here's pure gray, see? We'll put some green in there. You could paint this whole scene in gray and glaze it. So, you know, we talk about values of light, you know. And maybe one day we'll do that. We'll do painting in grays. And then do 2 sessions, maybe do first session, paint it all in gray, let it dry, and the second session, glaze it. That'd be a nice effect to learn. Just another way to paint. A lot of ways to paint. You know, this is painting directly. So see, there we go. It's very simplified. So we're going to take this thing. Think of it being out of focus. So we're going to pull it into focus. So once we cover everything, then I can plan my effect. See, the light's streaming down through the trees and it's hitting the top planes. See, hitting the top planes of the rocks on the bank here. We can wipe that off. Let's wipe that off a little bit. You know, this is going to be brilliant with light right here. We'll have a nice vortex, a nice path. Think of a path of light. So at this point, I like to establish my big light in the painting. I'll take some white, nice thick stroke of white, and we'll put a little wee bit of pink and a little bit of add yellow deep together. Let's see. See, that's almost white, but it's not white. If I was painting this in black and white, I'd paint this white and then glaze it later. So these are going to be the rocks. These are going to be the rocks catching that brilliant light comes down through the trees. And then there'll be no question where I want you to look, see? You know, like I said, there are a lot of ways to paint. I like to do it this way. Go right for that light. You know, the traditional way is dark to light, and you do build up your painting. It's all dark, you know, lighter, 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 and then bam, you get the light. But this way, we're going right for the light. We're coming out of the middle. Oh boy, motorcycle. Okay. Okay, so we're going to have, let's have the light trickling down through the trees. So, see, I have my sunlight green, and I call this the sunlight green right here. This is jet lemon yellow plus ultramarine blue and plus a little bit of white. Then I added more white, got a brighter one. So remember, above orange value, we're painting sunlight right there. So, you know, when we have a key, it's really makes painting less confusing. We're not guessing, you see. We know what we're doing here. I'm going to put that sunlight green with the same value gray. Then, you know, when I go even further away, I'll put some blue in that. But there are progressions of color, and progressions of light. And that's what we need to think about, talk about. So think about it trickling down through the trees. I don't know if any of you have been to Ohio Powell State Park in Pennsylvania. And you'll see great scenes like this, any state park really. This could be a scene in Pennsylvania, North Carolina, probably even out west. So I'm just thinking of the shapes of groups of leaves. See, some will be like egg shapes. I'm thinking of that. How would the light hit an egg shape? Going to hit the top of an egg. Let's find a little sphere here. See, make a little sphere, and then little jagged edges on it, and then we have a nice little group of leaves. See, so remember, this is my sunlight green with a very light gray. I agree, black with white. See, we're gonna get right down to that bank. I'm gonna get lighter here though. This is in the distance here. I better stick to the distance here. So see, this is my second value, right? I started with that shadow, and then I'm building some light. And then we're going to actually go to cooler, darker shadows in a little while. And as we build form, so you have to still build form in these trees. If there's any background noise here, I have to apologize for that because my studio, you know, is in the neighborhood here, and there's people out there today. So okay, see, so that's trickling down. Okay. I'm going to take some white now, titanium white, and this is a lighter green, not really yellow. There's more yellow in this. See, there's more yellow in that green, so we'll put more yellow. And this is really blasting right here. Sunlight is blasting this. These trees coming all the way down to the bank. So when you look at my painting, there's going to be no question where I want you to look. And you'll see that in Turner, Constable, Hudson River School. There's no question. I keep bringing up these painters today in the West. Their light is everywhere, so they have no focus. But this is a classical way, classical concepts of painting space, light, and atmosphere. And you notice the foreground will be in shadow, which really helps illuminate that effect. Helps my effect even more. So, okay, let's get into a little more color on that embankment there. I have an earth red here. It's Terra Rosa. I'll show you what that looks like. Terra Rosa is this. See, this is very reddish brown. Not burnt sienna. Don't want to use burnt sienna, but it almost looks like that. And if you were to mix Terra Rosa, you could use cad red light and cobalt blue, and you'll get that, or you can just get it out of the tube. That's right out of the tube. But it's a great earth color, and it's nice and rich. And I'm going to just very thinly put it up here. It's going to mix a little bit with my green, which will kill some of the red. See, green is a complement of the red. But I want it to be rich there. This can also get into the water, so I might as well just start that right now. Now, see if I want to move it that way, I've got to put some gray in it. We've got to cool it. Anytime I'm going, going a little further away, we've got to cool that color, whatever that color is. So we're going to do that, put a little gray in it, dilute the intensity. We got to kill the intensity of that red as it goes away. Otherwise, it'd be on the same plane as that. We don't want that. And frankly, a little bit of gray in there makes it look like violet. Very interesting. Now, you know what? I'll give you another thought here. Let's take that same Terra Rosa and put some, not only the gray, I'll put a little bit of violet in it. Violet is my blue violet. See, this is the ultramarine blue with alizarin crimson and white. See, that's what these are. So I'm going to put some of that with that Terra Rosa. And I'll go back here. We'll go way back here with that. See how logical that is. Love the logic of that. That's going to be an embankment way back there. So you can see the richness, and then we lose it as we go back. Okay. Okay, very good. Coming along. Okay. So see, we're building the effect. Let's keep with that effect. See, I told you before that the reflections in water are one step darker than what's being reflected. So we need, see how bright and light that is. So if I go to the reflection in the water here, I've got to drop it down one level or one step one step darker. You know, we paint what we see. So trust your eye. Just go with your eye and say, what's that look like? Yeah, it looks like it's darker. A little one step darker. I don't know if that shows up on the camera that way, but it is in real life here. Want that to be one step darker. That's just characteristic of water. You know, whatever is being reflected has got to be darker. And so these rocks, you know, here's the rock that's very bright. So let's get some gray, like some gray and some cad yellow deep. I'm going to put a shadow between the reflection in the rocks, so you'll see that. But we'll get to that in a minute. This is reflecting. And by the way, as we go further away, see, as we go further into the shadow, I'm using pink. This is my cadmium red light and white mixture here. So I pre-mix all this. And when you pre-mix this, you know, instead of thinking, oh my, that's overwhelming, it's not, because once you have it mixed, you could really fly through your painting. It's the people who have to mix as they go, they end up with muddy paintings. Trust me, it's true. And so it might take you an hour to mix all that. But boy, you don't even have to think about it when you want to paint. You just get into the excitement of the painting and you go with it. See, this is pink. See, as I go further away from the light, we get darker pink. This is just red and white. That's all it is. Cad red light and white. See, that look, it's a little darker there. See, it looks very luminous. Color is exciting when you know how to use it, play with it. So let's put a little shadow under this embankment. Actually, the rocks need shadows. That's what I need to do, put shadows in those rocks. So I have well, this is a pretty wide sable here. Let's see, it's a number 5, rosemary. First of all, let's ask ourselves, you know, what would a rock be if it's up close? What would the shadow of a rock be way up here? Well, I have a dark gray. Remember, black and white, it's a dark gray, and I could put red in it. Little cad red light. We'll say that's a shadow. Might use raw umber. Raw umber is a good, nice, rich, dark. So if I'm that dark up here, then I can ask myself, how dark do I have to be back there? Or rather, how light should I be back there? So let's take, see, remember, yellow ochre is a shadow, is the value of your lightest shadow. Let's put a little wee bit of raw umber into the yellow ochre. And then I'll use that for a shadow in the rock. Because it's in the light, see that the ochre gives it that feeling of a luminosity. So I'm only getting 1 or 2 strokes out of this paint. And, you know, I do repeat myself when I do these demos because it's important. But if you do more than 2 or 3 strokes, then you're going to get mud. Don't want mud. You over mix it, over blend it. That's why you get mud. See, that's what creates the mud. There's a little reflection. So this is darker pink. Darker pink in the water. See, I'm working with the water while I'm doing the rocks. Okay. Still very abstract, isn't it? Okay. Now, let's say, you know, this water, it's all pretty rich right now. But I want to cool this off. I'm going to cool it off with some blue grays. You know, you say, which blue? You know, I had a teacher once told me to put blue. He'd say, put blue there. And I'd say, which blue? How light? How dark? And I'd say, I don't want to influence your creativity. And then he'd walk away. Whoops. Whoops, I almost dropped that. Now here's some ultramarine blue. Now this has to be very straight back here. This is just blue and white, ultramarine blue and white. And that's going to make that water lay down and go away. I hope you can see that color okay. Hope it's coming out. Okay. All right, this is a lot of fun. So let's keep working this. See that area there. I'm gonna remember I put my orange value green with gray here. This is cad red light value green with the same value gray. So I'm going to do something in between those, which I have already mixed. So this is a green that's in between this one and that one, the base color. So I can model some more greens. You know, I love Corot's art when he did trees. He's C-O-R-O-T, great French painter, and one of my favorites. And recommend looking him up. He was great at simplifying trees, but still getting them to look like the wind is blowing through them. And he'd do, you know, he was one of those where he'd do very little and create a tremendous effect, which is what we're trying to do here today. Switch your eyes when you paint, and that'll close down all the light, and all you'll see is your painting. Closes down everything around you, and you'll focus right on the painting. So everything I'm doing is an effort to make the light stronger and brighter. It's all about the light. It's always about the light. Okay. Okay. See, I can even start blending a little bit, blend the light into the halftones. Now we're going to get some cools back here, some blue violets. Those ultramarine blue alizarin crimson violets. You know, like I said, keep saying if the, you know, if it's too intense, the color's too intense, put some gray in it. Or I'll tell you what, we'll take the violet that I have. I'll put the green into the violet, which will also kill the intensity of the violet, but we still have a nice cool, see? There's violet in there. Corot, they called his palette like a silvery, because he painted a lot with grays, a lot of grays. But beautiful, you know, and really, he was a Barbizon painter, and the Barbizon, you know, I was in France and we went through the Barbizon country, and it was just like a Corot painting. Could see exactly the color, why he painted the way he did. But let's get a little more violet over here. See, I want more shadow. It's up to me where I put it. It's up to the artist. You know, we're the artists. We can do whatever you want. In that picture, it's just meant to inspire whatever we want to do with it. There's no one way to interpret it. The one way I'm interpreting it as telling you about the light, how to paint the light effect. Everybody's handwriting is different. If we all painted the same scene, we'd know who painted what. Would say, oh, that's Betty's, or that's Mark's, or that's Rob's, you know, because of the style. You know, your style is, you're born with your style. You don't think, oh, I'm gotta work on my style, because you're born with that. You're stuck with that. Just kidding. But that's the beauty of it. You know, that's why we know we can identify a Rubens or a Rembrandt, right? In a minute, or a Vermeer, you know, in a heartbeat who painted what. See how nice that violet gives me that nice atmosphere. I'm building. I'm going to throw a little bit of violet in that water right here as an offshoot of the shadow from this big tree here. Why am I doing that? Just to cool it off. I want to cool it off to keep the warmer, hotter, if you will, color up front. Anytime I want to go back, I've got to throw violet, gray, or blue in it. You know, I talked about these blues and all. Ultimately, you may like phthalo blue better than ultramarine blue. That would work. That's okay. You know, it's all about becomes what your personality is. You know, in other words, I'm trying to say there are some rules and some that aren't rules. Some things aren't rules. I'm going to reestablish that bank back there with my Terra Rosa and violet. See, if I lose something, I can always get it back. That's why you can't hurt a painting. You'd say, oh, gee, I lost that. Now put it back. Put it back. Okay. Okay, see, all right now. Coming along. Let's keep building the drawing. See, we'll get more drawing into this as we go along. So, remember I said they're going to be trees up close here. And these trees actually will have raw umber right out of the tube here. because it's warm and it's dark. These will be trees, and I want to build a bit of an embankment here. I'm going to build it with raw umber. But, the photo I have here, which I also sent to everybody, it's pretty bad in a lot of ways, but it's still good as a composition. I mean, this is just in the photo is just a big dark blur, but I know there's a bank here. And it's going to help the composition as you go around the corner. See, you're going around the corner. Umber is nice and rich, nice, rich and warm. And I could put some of that Terra Rosa in here too, if I want to make it a little bit redder. Well, there should be redder. The earth will be a little bit redder. So we'll do that. And of course, this is reflecting in the water. I'm going to throw some of that in the water for now. Okay. Okay. Well, let's see. I'm going to bring it even further over. Like that. Okay. That's building. Now let's look at this again. Let's go back to this. I like to keep moving around the painting, develop it all at once, We're not settling on one spot and finishing it, like I said before. Okay, I want to build this bank a little more. And I'll show you, here's that raw umber. I use raw umber here. Let's put raw umber with white. I get a warm gray. Ivory black and white is a cool gray compared to raw umber and white. But you know what? Ivory black can look like a cool gray if it's compared to another kind, like a bone black or a Mars black. All relative. So this could be, the hill going up into the woods. And I'll build the woods right out of this. This is raw umber with white. See what a nice warm gray that is? Works really well. And then the Terra Rosa is up close. So that comes forward beautifully. If I mix the two together in the middle, between this distance and this foreground, and mix them together here, then there's a progression. We've got to get back to that progression, you see. Okay. Put a little shadow in here. Okay, that's coming along. And now that I put it here, I'm gonna have to put some of that here. And it's actually gonna have to be a little bit darker, remember? That's our principle. This has got to be darker. And I'll tell you what, there's so much green in this forest. We're gonna have to build some nice dark greens in this water. This is the dark green I showed you that's on the palette. And that comes forward really well. We're going to do something even darker before I finish this. I'll show you something very interesting. It's something I liked in this photo, I think is good. Maybe I should show you the photo again, show you what I'm looking at here. Oops. See this? I kind of like this dark right here. Only I'm not going to make it that dark, but it helps enhance the light. So I'm going to work on that here. Okay. See, we're just pick and choose what we like here. Sometimes we have to get everybody outdoors, but you know, we're all spread out. There's a student I have from England, I believe, is tuning in here today. And she couldn't join us, obviously, on location, but this is the next best thing, I hope. This is green. I'm thinking of the green of the trees. You know, all these trees, they reflect green in the water. And that's green and gray. And remember that this is the reflection of this in the water. These are some foliage in the water. And then it gets less, you know, just as it mixes with the paint already on there. See, it gets a little bit lighter as it goes down. See. There we go. Okay. Okay. And you know, the more I work on this, the more I see. So I'm just talking, telling you what I'm seeing as I go. Here's I see a bit of sky, a little blue gray over here, kind of trickling through here, which I like. I'm going to pick that value up back there. And I see, you know, I'm going to create an echo from this back here, the light on the trees. So I could take a darker green, which has more blue in it, less yellow, see, and I could put a light gray in that, and this will appear cooler. It's a cooler green. You know what I mean? I can take any other green I have on the palette, and I could put a light gray in it, sunlight gray, and create an echo of sunlight back there. I mean, if you have any question about that later, let me know. See, I have less yellow in there because it went further down the scale. And I'll tell you what, too, let's do this. I have phthalo green and white. A mixture of phthalo green and white right here. You see that right there. If I add that to any sunlight green, then that's going to go very far away. And way back here, this is going far, far away. Nice, really a nice progression. Once I put the tree trunks in, you'll see how what sense that'll make. And frankly, I can do something similar. We'll take that phthalo green and white and put that in my darker sunlight. Watch, see as this goes up the hill. There'll be some light hitting leaves back here. I'm going to go up the hill here. Maybe make a broken, lost and found edge coming up here. And we'll say, these are going to be trees way in the back. Phthalo green and white. Very cold. Very far away. So we're painting as much of the woodland, the woods as the water. I mean, this is about water, but we have to have the woods so we can get the effect in the water. See, we could just model this all day long. You know, I had a workshop in North Carolina. Actually, we had about 22 people. We hiked down to the Chattooga River, literally hiked down to it. And big rocks, big rocks. And Mark has the original of that. And the stream and the rocks is pretty incredible. I'm not sure, Rob, if you were there, but it was a great scene. But you know, I did a little one. I did one smaller than this to begin with. I did an 8x10. Did an 8x10 demonstration, actually in black and white, talking about values. And then I did a big 30x40 canvas in color.
Are you staying up here today?
Jim, I was there.
You were there.
With the big rocks.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
And there were no restrooms there. But we all stayed. We all painted, except for one lady. So this is the light. These are pinks. So the light's trickling through the forest there. I'm going to start putting some of the tree trunks in just to see where they're going to be and what value they would be. So I use raw umber here. So what if I took gray with cad red light? That would be a good one. That would be a good one for here. It's a big tree here. You can start at the top and bring it down. Get a rhythm in there. Find a rhythm in the tree trunk. Every tree has a rhythm. And tell you what's good too. If you have a wide tree, put a real thin one next to it. That's just good design, you know. Good variety. So let's build some trees here. You know, you have to keep the brush nice and juicy with paint. Got plenty of medium in it, and then it'll flow for you instead of drag. Sometimes you want it to drag, but I'm just saying, we will put one here. Put one through here. And let's vary this. Let's take a lighter gray with red. And whoops, let's go lighter than that. You can even take pure gray. See, if I take pure gray, then it shows it's even further away because I took the red out. You got some depth. You want some depth here. Way back here, I could put violet. I'll take gray and violet because the blue violet cools the gray off. So we'll just go right in there with that. The photograph then shows the tree back there just as dark as the tree up front. And I had a friend who was a painter near where I live and did paint those trees just as dark as those trees. Because you either know these concepts or you don't. And if you just copy photograph, then you're in real trouble. You see how the light now is working that I started with? Is put down first, then I just draw the tree on top. You take a smaller, thinner brush, not smaller, but thinner. Sables are great for drawing with. They're the drawing brush. So here's my sable. And I can get a nice thin stroke. Let's throw a tree limb this way. Throw some this way. Then I'm going to go over this again with some leaves. But before that, I could do a dry brush, just kind of soften it. Lose a little bit, soften it, soften some edges. We don't want them all sharp. They start out that way, but we don't want to leave it that way. Dry brush is great for that. Okay, let's go to this group. That's raw umber. Let's just take pure raw umber. Draw some tree trunks and branches all through here. Let's take a wider one. I better get my bristle brush and get a wider tree trunk here. Get some character in there. If you do a real big painting, then you can really get into the character of the bark. But this would be like a study on location. Then then say, oh, I think I like that enough to do a big one. I just did a commission for a fella. I did about three or four studies first, from 8x10 to even 20x30, but then the painting was 24x36. So I worked out all my ideas on the smaller ones. Here's some ultramarine blue. Let's take some pure blue, and I'll just move it right into this original umber I put on. And it's blending in. It's not looking pure blue because I don't want it to, but It's cooling it, see, cooling that edge. Those might be the rocks on the edge. And then let's use that darker value right along the bank here, you know, where it meets the water. That's ultramarine blue, but it's mixed in with the, it's actually mixed in with the Terra Rosa as I'm painting. So it's makes a real nice violet is what it's doing. I don't know if you can see that or not, but now that I did that, I'm looking here again, and I'm seeing that I want this now to be darker because it's closer. So we can take a little bit of that ultramarine blue with the Terra Rosa. Let's create a nice violet, but it's cooler. See, it's darker, but it's cooler. So I could build some character in that hillside. You see, I think you see that. Okay. See, you see how brilliant this looks. That's what I started with. You know, I like to do that. Whenever I paint any landscape, I put the ochre down first. And you know what I like too about this picture that I think I might pick up is there's some flickering light, you know, it's coming through the trees, it's hitting this foreground here. So what would that be? That could be a deep, rich pink, you know, maybe put a little orange in it. Let's see what will happen here. See, these are pinks, so this is a dark pink with orange in it. Just because it makes it a little richer. See, the orange makes it a little bit richer in color. Dry brush, little dry brush technique there. So you soften that edge there. Put it right down to that rock right there. Maybe that, we'll see how that looks. And then maybe take some of the water, the light on the water, and let's shoot out a little bit of light. This is cad yellow deep here, with a little bit of white in it. And I'm going to leave that nice richness there. So see if I want to put some ripples in here, let's put some cool ripples. Take some blue greens. See, because green because it's the forest, and blue because the sky has to be coming down and hitting. But we would still have to let that shallow stream color of the shallow stream come through. It's very rich. You know, the less we do, the better with water. But here's some blue gray. Look, well, maybe you know what? I'm going to take a very light blue gray. When I say blue, I'm grabbing ultramarine blue, but I don't want phthalo blue. Um, this would go along the bank. This is white, ultramarine blue, right where the bank meets the water. Only get 2 strokes or 1 stroke. Let's see. There's 1. more paint. And another there. Then let's take some blue and white and run it across the top of the water. Just dots and dashes, might be a long dash. But we do have to have that cool. And it makes it look like at least the water's moving a little bit, So let's see how that's looking here. I'm going to go back here. This tree I've got too light there. In fact, I had done gray with light red. Add red light. Let's make this darker. Okay. Okay. Now here's what we need. We have to go on top of these trees with some leaves. So remember, I was at CAD red light value green, and I put the same value gray into that. So I'm going to overlap now, overlap the tree trunks here and there. With that value, these are leaves. Get a leafy effect here. That. See, these are little dots and dashes. This is what you'd see in Corot. He could make it look like a forest just doing this. Then you have artists like Gainsborough. Gainsborough did beautiful landscapes, and he painted wonderful trees, nothing like Corot. Well, I guess you might even say they're detailed compared to Corot, but still, it gets the feeling of the form beautifully. Gainsborough was the portrait painter, but he loved painting landscapes. Nobody would buy his landscapes. He said if he was a landscape painter, he would have starved. But because he was a portrait painter, then the people who got their portraits painted would buy his landscapes. He loved painting the landscape more than the portrait. And he made them all up in the studio. He never went outside. I think what he did, he painted from memory. Because he'd ride around on his horse. And then he'd go back and paint. But he'd set up landscapes in the studio. He'd get rocks. He'd get broccoli, rocks and twigs, and make a landscape in the studio. That's an anecdote there. So see this, you know what, too? I think what I'm going to do is take some of this green as I develop this. But this is the point where the painting paints itself. Did you ever hear that expression? Where at this point, anything you're doing is for the sake of the painting, which means you're going to do it to make a better painting. So I'd like this to be in shadow up here. I think it make it a better painting. You do this for the sake of the painting. In other words, this is when you feel it, you see. You paint what you know, and you paint what you see. First, you paint what you see. Then you paint what you know, then you see what you know. Okay, so let's go to this one. We'll go to my dark green, very dark green. And just to kill the intensity, we got that dark gray in there. And we'll build some form up here because I just have a flat, that flat mass. So I can build form here now. So you see how just kind of bringing the whole thing into focus started very abstract, very loose. And then you tighten it up as you go. Then you can tighten it as much as you want. That's your personality, really. There's no right or wrong. It's all your personality.
Hey, Jim, quick question. So these trees that you're painting right now that you added gray more in the foreground, I mean, why wouldn't you have just painted it just the pure color as opposed to adding gray to it? I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, the greens, the way I make them, mix them, those are they represent transmitted light. They represent the light coming through the leaf. And what I'm doing, when I put gray into it, I'm showing that the light is reflecting off of the leaf. The sun is hitting the top of the leaf. But if I'm holding the leaf up to the sun, then that's what these mixtures are. That's what they would look like. As soon as I hold the leaf, with the sun reflecting off of it, then I have to put gray in there.
Okay.
Yeah, if you take a leaf, hold it up to the sun, you'll see this. And that's a good effect to a point, In fact, you know what? I could do some of that up here. I could take some of that pure green as though it's coming through the edge of a leaf. As soon as I take it pure right off the palette like this, then I'm saying the sun is passing through that leaf because it's so brilliant. And that you could do that with any landscape like this. I could use every single green on this palette that way because they're all transmitted greens from the light to the dark. Transmitted light. I like that effect. If you're doing an early morning sunrise with trees against the sunlight, then you could do this really nicely. And then there might be grasses up close with the sun coming through the grass. That's a good effect. Here's my distance again. Let's hit that again. Way back there. So, and by the way, see, I can take, here's cadmium red. This is a vermilion, I believe. So it's a little bit darker than cad red light. And so it's a similar value to the green I have. Look, you see that? I can throw red right on top of those greens here and there, even the tree trunk, and it gives it more richness and luminosity. So in other words, it's not just green. Leaves, trees and grass, it's not just green. You gotta have some red in there. In fact, I could even throw some in here at the right value. See, that's my cad red medium with gray in it. Or just put green in it. Take the red and put green in it. And then you've killed the red, but you still have enough to give variety to the green. But, it's like if you paint green grapes, you want some red in some of those green grapes. Otherwise it's just too green. then how about blue? We're saying that this is a sunny day. Let's put some pure ultramarine blue on in here. Let's throw it in there. A few blue planes. And so really, the tree is red, yellow, blue, just like anything else. You've got the whole thing going on. Let's talk about an accent here, okay? The darkest dark is an accent. So, you know, it makes a good accent when you have sap green with alizarin crimson. Mix those together, boy, that would be really rich and dark right here. And I'd have to stop and go get it, but I'll take phthalo green. I'll take phthalo green and alizarin crimson, which is really dark and really rich. And that would go way up front here. That could be right there. Maybe that's a shadow in the rock, you know. But we should have that. We should have that in the landscape because that brings it forward. Got to bring that foreground forward. You know, it's interesting, isn't it? We started in the middle, and then we built the lights, and then built the darks. This is the water. This is blue, ultramarine blue, and white. I'm going to put a little streak of water along that bank there. Yeah, but accent's important. That's like using the whole palette from white to black. Let's go back and hit this rock here again. I actually put white on there. And so I could have built that effect really bright. Now that I did that, I want to go back here again. Let's take a pink. This is red and white. Add red light and white. And I get that water. You have to see if I'm up to white, I have a huge range between that and that. So I could go really high in pitch here. No, I'll take blue and white. I think I had blue and gray before. I'll put blue and white. Remember, as long as I keep looking here, I won't get too light. Because I can say, okay, that's going right around the bend there. See? Now let's do something else here. We've got I've got about 10 minutes here. And we'll take a pink. And maybe we'll hit some white planes on these trees back here. With one here and there, not everywhere. Okay. Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to get this positioned a little better, a little bit closer here.
Hey, Jim, just one other question. Whenever you've talked about shadows, you always mention in the landscape that the shadows are really warm and rich in the foreground and they get cooler as they go back, just like you do with your grays and your violets and your blues. What about, so if you had some submerged rocks in the foreground there in the water, are the shadows still warm but cooler than the shadows in the landscape, or do you paint the shadows blue in the water?
Yeah, the shadows from the rocks. You
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
No, that'd be warm, that'd be warm. But if they're up front here,
they'd be
yeah,
warm.
we'll do the same progression, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I don't know if I have enough room to do that here, but let's say there are rocks in there, like ochre and gray. See, the gray will show that it's underwater. And then, yeah, the shadows would have to be just like what I'd say, the bed of the stream. So I could take Terra Rosa in my green, make a dark green. You know, my darker shadow green, and that would be under that rock. Yeah, you can build a whole thing of rocks here. And just like you said, as you go back, then that shadow would get lighter if it was here. And a lot lighter, a lot bluer back there.
And then you would just throw ripples on top to make them look like they're underwater, right?
Right. Yes, indeed. Like a blue ripple. Yeah, we live around an area where you can see this Mingo Creek. Yeah. You know where there might be some transmitted light? Would be right through here. See, that's pure green off the palette. That's what that shows me. The sun is coming through there. Yeah, see how rich that is because it doesn't have any gray in it. Yeah, okay, here technically, we could actually use black. Let's do this for the fun of it here, okay? Let's take black right there. And I wouldn't really leave it black. I'd put some red in it, but you could go that dark. Okay, let's say black with the alizarin, okay? That would be in the center, right in the center of that tree. See that right in the center, not on the edges, just in the center. And that would pull it forward really terrifically. And way forward compared to that. We'll go back to that one, make it darker. So that's I had dark gray with red in it. I want that to be darker. Because I want it to be closer. And I had it too light. I might make these darker right here. It gives me more depth, you know? Just look at how the depth is working or not working. And by the way, too, let's talk about one more thing here. See, I have ochre there. See, here's pure ochre. Throw some of that on that bank. Just for richness, you know, it's close enough I could do that. So, you know, when you paint plein air or paint like this, you know, it takes a lot of thought because if you just break it down to value, like the old masters, you're just thinking of lights and darks and light effects. Here you're thinking all of that plus red, yellow, blue. You know, where's that go? Where's this go? So, you know, that's more of a modern approach compared to the old masters. But we can do it, see, we're up to it. Although, you know, Ruben said paint everything as direct as much as you can and then finish with the glaze. So I like that technique a lot.
Jim,
This is-
I have a question about the bank on the right.
right here.
Yes, exactly. The one dark above the Terra Rosa, the one dark, it almost looks like a shadow from the tree going down to the water, which is the wrong direction from the light. You know, it's so linear and it looks like a tree shadow, but you know, so I'm wondering about that.
Well, it is a shadow. Look at, I'm going to show you here. See, you see that they are creating shadow. The trees are creating shadows even over here. See, it's still coming in there. You still have to have that. You know what I see it as the earth turning. You know, the top planes and top plane and a side plane to the earth.
Okay.
That's the way I was thinking of it.
Well, I just thought because the sun was coming from the upper left down to the lower right, that the shadows would be behind the trees on the right instead of in front on the left. It's that just one line just is a little bit confusing. That way.
Well, no, you know, trees will create shadows with the sun coming down, straight down too. You know, I could blend them together, move them, you know, let one move into another. It'd be better.
Yeah, that looks better already.
Thanks for pointing that out. That was a good question. So that's how I'd interpret that picture. I thought the composition was really good. Whoever took that picture, I got that off the internet. So does anybody else have a question? I think I took that.